Hi everyone, good afternoon. Raksha, Mr. Nilesh, can we start?
Yes, we can.
Or we already have
Yep.
few speakers join in if you are joining in. So I think we should start sharp on time, yes? So that we keep track. So before I start, just wanted to know if I'm loud and clear and audible.
Yes, you are.
Yes, we can hear you well, Ekta. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, hello all, a very good afternoon. And myself, Ekta Dubey, on behalf of the Brinalytics team and our title partner, Avaya India, we welcome you all and thank you for being part of a roundtable on Experience Revolution, Dawn of Digital CX in BFSI. So before we start a roundtable, just a few guidelines. I would like to highlight everybody is on mute when the speakers are taking the session, and we definitely have a chat box where we can engage with these speakers. You can put your thoughts and your insights on the topic, and if any questions, you can mention that in the chat box. That will be addressed by the thought leaders. So to start with, I would first quickly like to introduce our partner Avaya India. For Avaya India, businesses are built on the experiences they provide, and every day, millions of those experiences are built by Avaya. For over 100 years, they have enabled organizations across the globe to win by creating intelligent communication experiences for customers and employees. Avaya builds open, converged, and innovative solutions to enhance and simplify communications and collaborate in the cloud, on premises, or a hybrid of both. To grow your business, they are committed to innovation, partnership, and a relentless focus on what's next. They are the technology company you trust to help you deliver experiences that matters. A little bit why we are all here today for an interesting roundtable. We all know that BFSI has been very successful for a long time with its well-established rulebook for products, services, and processes. Digital transformation is a long process, so no matter where you are the journey, there's still lots of work to be done to the meeting ever-changing customer expectations in the financial service industry. This roundtable is a thought-provoking one, which will focus on how extreme customer centricity is becoming must to adapt to the post-pandemic world. We are going to learn how new CX technologies and trends can bring indispensable value on the table and key factors and recommendations to achieve superior banking customer experience. Now, to start with the first session, I would first like to invite our keynote speaker, Mr. Saurabh Lakhanpal, to speak about him. He is an avid CX and EX advocate, having more than 14 years of experience in helping customers choose the right customer experience solutions. At Avaya, Saurabh provides strategic directions to the customers and account sales manager to devise digitalization and transformation strategies. So over to you, Saurabh, to start your session. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you, Ekta. I'll start sharing my screen and just let me know when you can see it. Should be up now.
Yes, it is. We can see that.
All right, thank you. Before I start, very keen request to everyone on the call if we can come on video and interact face to face, because virtually we listen to each other and we've been part of multiple sessions like this, but it gives a good feeling about when you're viewing your listeners as well. Thank you, whoever is comfortable coming on the video call. Thank you. All right. All right, so let's start with I welcome everyone to today's roundtable, where we'll reimagine the customer experience and how can we improve the customer communications. Basically, I'll start with a famous quote by Maya Angelou. She said, people may forget what you said, they may forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And this quote, I think, is very relevant for all of us as well, because today's everything customer wants us to make them feel good and want each experience want each experience that they have with any organization a memorable one. And previously, if we look at from a average lifespan of an organization, around 50 years ago it was around 60 years, and it has drastically dropped to 18 years now. And if we look at the reasons behind it, there are many, but a major reason behind it can be staying relevant to the market. And we have all seen organizations that has just vanished for one reason, and that was they could not pace up with the changing environment, right? And one way to staying relevant is adopt to the technology and the innovations that are around us. And if we talk about current scenario, I think there are three important ways to staying relevant in the market through the use of technology and innovations. The first one out of it is digital transformation, which has become non-negotiable. As the BFSI industry is working to keep up with the rapid pace of change, which is occurring every day. Uh, Past 18 months have completely transformed the way services are delivered. Customers now have access to the services through virtually any channel they want, be it chat, a phone, an email, video, in person, or all of the above as well, right? Organizations like you can use this to your advantage as well, for sending proactive reminders about maybe appointments, payments, or doing targeted sale campaigns across the customer's preferred channels. The second one is businesses have now no choice but to elevate the customer contact center performance by providing personalized customer support, or the risk, or they are on the risk of falling behind. Now, artificial intelligence and the applications that it brings in, such as the conversational AI, can be the key to gaining the competitive edge and successfully managing modern and the constantly evolving customer expectation. And how does AI enable contact centers to be in full sync with the the on-demand culture of today's customers, and offer the round-the-clock customized help they crave? We'll take a closer look in the upcoming slides on that. And the third thing is, it's all about to be present where your customers are, and your customers are omnipresent, and businesses also need to gear up to be able to provide the omni-channel experience to their customers, which is the experience has to be effortless, it has to be consistent, it has to be personalized, and it has to be intelligent as well at the same time. Now let's look at the first two points in detail. The digital marketplace and workspace basically should support phygital. It has to be a mix of physical and a digital world to provide the much needed experience to the customers. Through analytics, we need to replace data with the context and insights to empower employees converse intelligibly with customers. AI and machines are not here to replace human. Actually, it has to be a team model where both virtual agent and a human agent they work together with all the information and the context transfer available within each other. And we need to have our best resources available for those emotionally challenging conversations as well, with the kind of irate customers that we get to our agents, right? And when we talk about these, there are three solutions that stand out when we need to have all that is needed to make an organization digitally relevant in today's era. The new user interface through the virtual agents, either on voice or on text, providing new touch points to the consumer, such as video for not just digital but an immersive digital experience. And lastly, the AI and analytics to empower the agents and businesses together, right? And if we look at 71% of the consumers, they like to bypass the identification and verification questions, and they're very happy with the voice biometrics solutions available to them. And two out of three consumers, they say chatbot should be like Google. It should not be uh, very limited. It should be like Google, wherein they can type anything and they'll get the right answer coming back to them straight away without any inconvenience. And 50% of the consumers say they would like to use their smart speakers to get the customer service, or to get the answers to their queries. And let's look at one example of how modern voice looks like, or how the future should be.
Walnut Bank. How can I help?
I'd like to pay $500 to my Visa bill from my checking account.
No problem. When would you like to make the payment?
Next Friday, and make it $600 actually.
You'd like to pay $600 to your Visa bill on Friday, October 27th, right?
Wait, let me check my balance first.
Your checking account currently has an available balance of $1,425.38.
Okay, all good to pay the bill.
Got it. $600 will be paid from your checking account to your Visa bill on Friday, October 27th. Is there anything else I can help you with?
Yes, I wanted to speak to someone about closing my credit card account.
Okay, one moment while I get someone to help.
Good afternoon, Mr. Smith. How can I help you?
Yeah, my credit card rates are too high right now, so I've decided to switch to another company. So let's go ahead and cancel my Walnut Bank credit card.
So basically, what we saw on this slide was a natural language conversation between an AI virtual agent and normal human customer doing that. And there were multiple things that we saw in between, right? There was an open dialogue, multi-slot recognition conversation, which happened. The system was able to identify the multiple slots that the customer was saying. Then it was able to extract the meaning and update the amount as well. The customer first wanted to pay $500, but then he changed it to $600. Then he completely changed the context. First he was trying to pay the bill. Next context was around checking the balance, right, before paying the bill. And then the complete dynamic content which was brought in by the system, and then a real-time trigger also to the agent to better serve the customer when he was about to churn out, right? So different things which were there in this example, and this example was on voice, right? But there are multiple channels are available today to the consumers out there, and they have a freedom to use all the channels which are available to them. It can be a social channel, or a normal mobile app, or a website based chat, or a chatbot, basically on different non-voice channels available, a normal voice conversation, SMS, WhatsApp, video. There are a lot of channels which are available, and we need to provide access to all those channels to those to the consumers out there to be relevant in today's market. Now how video is an immersive channel. Let's look at that. It's very widely used, and with the regulatory bodies also bringing in the use of video to do a KYC kind of solution. The use has widely increased as well, right? So you can do all kind of document collection, you can do a video verification, do a face authentication. There are different kind of things that you can do with the video itself. And even it does not have to start with the video. The customer can start the conversation through a normal, maybe a voice channel or a chat channel or an SMS channel, and then can escalate that conversation to the video conversation. And then there are multiple benefits that you get out of it. And uh, the few are listed here, which is you get with a faster customer onboarding. There is a lower acquisition cost from a customer acquisition perspective. You can do multiple or two level customer verification, one through the documents that they have, or through the OTP one time authentication, or through the face authentication as well. And nobody of us would want to fill up those lengthy forms. So to help with those, there are the AI again comes into picture and does the form filling for us. And if we look at an example of how customer onboarding, how easy it is to do via video. It starts with a maybe a mobile app or a browser where customer presses click to chat maybe, and then an agent is selected basis that agent knows now the onboarding has to be done and the documents has to be verified. So he I escalate that chat conversation to a video conversation, and then after that video conversation, the customer can upload those documents within that interface while he is chatting or doing a video call with the agent. So an immersive experience for the agent and as well as for the customer, wherein on one interface they are able to complete the complete transaction without any hassles and all that, right? And when we talk about analytics now former CEO of GE once said, there are two sources of competitive advantages that you get. One is you learn about your customers faster than your competition, and then you turn that learning into an action faster than the competition, so that you are in the race. And how do you do that? How do you learn about your customers is through analytics, and through engagement is how you turn into action. And when we talk about analytics, there are multiple analytical solutions which are available to the businesses out there, right? So we talk about speech analytics use cases here. It starts with a basic quality analysis of the calls, reducing AHT on hold times by giving you actionable insights. But after the quality analysis, you can identify or predict a churn of a customer. There is a sentiment analysis, but there are certain use cases which are very relevant from a digital channel perspective as well. So how you can use speech analytics or a text analytical solution when the customers are doing chat or voice conversations, basically to identify where the self-service is filling up from a digital perspective, or if something is available on your website and customers are saying, I was on your website, I couldn't find this information, that's why I am now calling you to get that information, or now chatting with you to get that information. So that kind of use case can be utilized by the banks as well, so to identify, or the people in the BFSI industry, to identify where my self-service options are failing, where my digital options are failing. And then my agents also can monitor and update the customers that you can utilize the digital channels as well for the same information, and where to find that information. Then there is an operational efficiency and cost savings also that you get with the analytical solutions. Basically, it gives you the actionable insights through which you can, businesses actually can take those actionable insights, turn them into actions, and then reduce AHT and repeat calls through that. You can identify and address the agent knowledge gaps. You can focus on the quality monitoring of 100% of the calls, basically, instead of the quality team members doing some random sampling, and then you taking business decisions on basis of that. And there is another angle to it which comes up around sales effectiveness. So for people or for businesses who are doing telesales, and it's very prevalent in the BFSI industry, if I talk about, right? We do telesales, we do collection, and we do a lot of other outbound kind of calling from a sales perspective as well. And how you can do a bring in effectiveness from a salespeople is, you identify through the analytical solutions who are your best performance, and then you identify who are your least performance, and then you identify the gaps. What is it that this best performer is doing, which my least performer is not able to do? And then you analyze that, and teach those skills as well to your low performing sales guys, and which brings in more sales to you or to the businesses. And the third thing that initially we talked about, that the agents or the customers are omnipresent, and the businesses have to be omnipresent as well in the complete journey. And when we talk about omnipresence, it's not just from an customer point of view, but omnipresence should also be from an employee point of view and from a business point of view, right? Let's look at a small journey of a customer, from a total experience journey, basically, where it starts from a customer, then goes to an employee, and then ends with a business a user, right? So basically it starts with proactively notifying the user about maybe a payment delay or a new offer or a new product that you're launching, right? uh, then customer does a self-serve look at the different options available, chat with the platform, uh, obviously with the support of the AI itself. Then he wants to make a payment to get that service. Then the system is kind of a PCI compliant, wherein all the payments are taken in. And maybe after that, after the transaction is completed, customer has some kind of query where he wants to talk to somebody, right? So he ask for a callback from the virtual agent. A callback is initiated, then is routed to the best available resource which is there, and then hand it over to that agent. When it comes to the agent, agent should have all the relevant context and information available to him, with all the guidance that he needs on a real time basis on screen available to him, right? And then again a knowledge integration as well, wherein the knowledge which is available within your organization should be available to that agent as well when he's responding to the customer queries, right? He should have access to all the resources as well. Resources, when I say the back office staff which is there to work on different things after that agent has conversed or after he has created a ticket for those people, right? So he should have access to those resources as well. Then from a supervisor point of view, right, he should have capability to monitor that agent, and then manage different cases altogether for those agents as well, routing here and there. And then the transaction basically is completed between the agent and the customer, within all that. The agent, with all the help of the resources, context, guidance, he would answer the customer for the queries that he has. But then comes the business part, right? After the interaction is completed. Now, from a business perspective, business should be able to manage the performance. They should be able to review the staffing. Do I have the right kind of skill available for the calls that are coming in? Do I need to train and coach my employees or my agents depending on the performances that I'm getting? Or doing analytics on top of the the processes, desktop analytics basically, to identify if the agents are using the laid down SOPs or not. And at the end of it is providing the support to through the tools to the the guidance and resources and in real time availability to the businesses, right? With that, I'll take a pause, and I know I've gone few minutes above as well from the time, but yeah, with that, I'll take a pause, and I again thank you for your time today. And if there are any questions, I think we can take now.
Sure. Thank you, Saurabh, for interesting insights. So, we would like to know if anybody has a question. Please put your question to Saurabh, and he would be happy to answer that.
Hey, good afternoon. I'm Vivek from Kaizen Voice. I'm a very new partner to Avia DevConnect program and deep tech on voice biometrics. Have two questions to Saurav. One is, in terms of customer acquisition, interaction management, and retention, yes, the contact center plays a major part in providing one of the processes to the BFSI sector. But when you translate to the digital world or the digital twin in the BFSI, how does this sum up? There is an existing infrastructure which is legacy, and you're talking about a digital twin, which is more in terms of video calls, voice chats, conversational voice AI, intent recognition, and so on and so forth. How does this converge? Meaning, how does the security play a vital role in this, and how is this being taken up?
Right. So, see, when you talk about different worlds, right, there are traditional systems in place from a voice perspective, right? Then we're talking about the digital, filling up the digital gap as well. Now, if you talk about these two solutions, these are not different solutions. It's kind of a same solution, offering complementary services to customers over different channels. So it's part of the same solution itself, and not kind of we rip and replace that traditional infrastructure from a voice perspective, and then bring in a new infrastructure for support of these video digital channels altogether. No, it basically complements the traditional voice infrastructure with the newer capabilities. They work hand in hand together and then provide the capabilities. Now, you talked about biometrics as well, when we are trying to do maybe a authentication on an IVR channel, maybe, or a voice channel, right? When it comes to digital, there is that's why I said video is digitally immersive technology nowadays, and we can do a face authentication as well. So it's all about biometrics itself. Instead of voice, we are doing face.
Just a follow-up questions to that. Any of these biometrics operate on the principle of statistics. There is a reference model and there is a new unknown file which is coming in and you authenticate. And there is a huge channel variance. If you take a traditional IVR to a new age digital channel, which is say a SIP trunk in which you are providing the services, the channel variance is so high that the same voice prints do not work well across all these channels. So how do you cope up with that? And digital channel video KYC, yes, it's a new thing where anti-spoofing mechanism, how important a part does it play there, and how is this being mitigated within Aware?
Right. So see, from a when you talk about the voice quality print, the contact centers which provide services to the customers, they work on mature technologies. So they work on PRIs, they work on SIP as well. But the voice quality is better than a normal a mobile network or other networks available, right? So it basically captures those voice prints from a technology perspective, and then do an authentication basis that individual voice print itself. And looking at the industry from a voice voice capability perspective, they work well. And from a clarity perspective, the technologies which are available, PRIs and the SIP channels, are available, and the clarity is there in the voice print as well. So
Thanks.
that
Thank you. I'll connect offline, but I expected a different thing. Let me not stall this program for some other deeper questions. I'll connect offline. Thank you very much.
sure. Thanks for your question.
Thank you. Thank you, Vivek, for a question. And thank you, Saurav, once again. So now I would like to move to a roundtable discussion. The topic is game changing lessons from COVID 19, what it means for financial services overall. So before I share the format, we had shared the questions, 4 pointers with all the speakers who have joined us today. The first point being tracking the changing customer journey. Second point being adopting agile innovation to optimize and differentiate. Third point being better prepared to forge a consistent experience at every touch point for your organization. And the last, navigating on when automating and when to use technology to support human interactions. And with me, I have Mr. Nilesh Marathe, Digital Engagement Solution Sales Leader with Avaya India, who would be moderating the roundtable session. So, Nilesh, over to you to share your insights first, and then we move on to inviting the thought leaders. Thank you.
Well, okay. Thank you, Ekta, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your time, and it's a pleasure to be on this Power Pact forum. I kept hearing. I got a chance over last 6 months, over a year, to speak about speak to 30 odd our customers in specifically in the BFSI segment, and generally customers from other segments. The common theme was, hey. Aside from BFSI, right? But generally, the all other verticals, the feedback was that the COVID and the lockdown specifically has accelerated the digital transformation process, right? The because it's a lockdown, but the business has to go on, and the business has to evolve, right? The fallback on the digital channels and so on. But when I compare that feedback with the BFSI, the BFSI feedback was, yeah, not really, right? We were ready for the COVID, and that's really good to hear from this particular segment, because the BFSI has been one segment always bullish on the technology, always adopting the new trends, and so on, right? So it was no surprise for me to hear that feedback. Hey, yeah, the pandemic was there, lockdown occurred, but it wasn't BFSI wasn't as impacted as the probably other verticals maybe, right? And but there were some struggles, there were some challenges, not from the digitization perspective, but the new adopting the new culture. All of a sudden you have the employees and everybody, the customer face time was lost, employees were working from home and so on. So I got to hear, I was involved with some of our customer directly during the lockdown period, helping them move employees work from home, agents work from home, uh, the deploy the automation, in certain sections, because the employees did not have the access to the network, so the agent couldn't, only 20% of the agents were available, 30% of the agents available, and so on. So the focus was obviously on improving the automation, so that the customer service has to be there, right? The business has to go on, customer must be serviced, and so on. Those were some of the challenges that I got to work with some of our customers. And the other challenges were when the employees, and I would like to hear, we have the people who have gone through all those things. I was like on a helping side, but most of our panel was like, you have done that, you experienced that yourself. So just would like to, as a process, when we kickstart these discussions, probably would like to hear, some of the challenges. For example, the agents who were working from home, the employees who were working from home had no longer the support available, right? Of their managers, supervisors. So the collaboration played an important role. Second, the compliance, right? BFSI sector is very sensitive to the information, data security, etc., right? And when we have the customer data available, is be getting access from the employees from their home in unsecured environment. So those were some of the challenges that we got to hear from most of our customers, and some were addressed, some are still considering, evaluating what needs to be done, etc., and so on and so forth. So those are some of the thoughts, from the digitization, automations, analytics, using analytics, not so much from a pandemic perspective, but generally, and also the other challenges that pandemic threw in. I think let's hear on those points as well. I'm really excited, looking at the sheer amount of cumulative power and knowledge and information that we have on this particular panel. I'm quite eager to, listen to everybody else. So that's my 2 cents. Ekta, back to you, and maybe you want to invite people to share their thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Nilesh, for sharing your thoughts on the topic. So now, first, I would like to invite Shardy Ghosh. She's a Senior Executive Vice President, Customer Experience Center and Virtual Relationship Management with Kotak Mahindra Bank. So Shardy, we had shared 4 pointers. So would like to have your insights on the topic. Over to you, Shardy. And thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you. My pleasure entirely. I heard him say that, BFSI coped very well. I wouldn't like to take undue credit for it, but the fact was that the economy slowed down. The number of financial transactions slowed down as soon as the lockdown happened. And that, I think, helped most banks to cope with the changing reality that happened. The second part of contact centers and service is specifically there is a lot of attrition. COVID also helped control some of the attrition that tends to happen anyway as a de-rigor process of a monthly operations. I think that also controlled. These two factors, I think, helped the BFSI segment to quickly scale up to the needs of the customers in the first 1 month and so. And which is why I agree with you. I think BFSI handled this whole COVID digital crisis better than a lot of other industries. On the thoughts, I liked your questions. I would specifically like to take the tracking the changing customer journey part that you said. So, if I take payments, there are two pillars of payments, and payments is a very important part of this whole COVID pandemic, where you were ordering everything online or through WhatsApp or through various Google Docs that vendors were helping and coming to, and thus customer wanted convenience and safety. Now, while customers wanted convenience and safety, they wanted to be also, they, because we are a bank, They needed to be sure that the security risks associated with these cash payments and the speedy checkout processes that they wanted, that had to be secure. If you look at it realistically, no one wakes up in the morning desperate to make a payment. But we do wake up wanting a new gadget or buying a book or to refill the fridge with groceries, right? So the ideal process that we envisaged for your customer, and one of the features that we rolled out was pay your contact. The ideal payment process is invisible. It needs to happen without any obvious interaction with a payment application, and it has to give the customer peace of mind that this will not be tampered with. So I think this was a huge changing the customer journey that we kind of tracked upon. The second part of one of the questions you asked was being better prepared to forge a consistent experience at each touch point for your organization. I think consistency of experience is extremely critical. A customer has to feel that, and I feel after about 10 years in this CX industry and specifically working in this line, that if you have to empower an experience based culture, you have to get a measure and then drive it relentlessly. Now, what that measure is, honestly, you don't need to split hairs. It can be CSAT, it can be NPS, it can be customer effort score, but then choose one measure and then drive it across all your touch points, transactionally as well as at a relationship level. I think the pandemic also helped us set a few KPIs. We all track social media posts, Twitter, Insta. But how many of us check the app ratings on Google Play and the App Store? Reviews, forums, other sites. Those are also important to come. YouTube videos that you post, there are comments that come which don't come in the usual social media crawlers. I think those are stuff you need to see. One of the analysis that we did this year was why were users, customers contacting the customer contact center? That's something you need to see. Which other apps are they on prior to contacting? What can I improve in the verbiage of those? Obviously, retention, switch rates, and the active customer volume. I think these are the two questions that I found interesting. If you want, I can speak on the rest, but there are lots of panel members, and I think I would allow them to speak.
Thank you. Thank you, Shardi, for sharing your insights. Yes, you can come back later on when we open the floor again. So now we had insights from Shardi Ghosh coming in. Now I would like to invite Mr. Deepu KV, President Operations and Customer Experience with Bajaj Allianz General Insurance, to share his thoughts on the subject. Thank you, Mr. Deepu, for being with us today. So you're on mute, I guess. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Thank you for pointing that out. I was saying thanks, Ekta, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to hear everybody. So I'll given the paucity of time, I'll straight away dive into the four aspects, and then maybe share a brief perspective. I think you basically spoke about tracking the changing customer journey. So I think one thing which has happened, and we all are aware, during the COVID-19 scenario was that everything moved online, right? So it was a digital way of servicing. But now what we are seeing is there is a shift from just digitizing the physical to humanizing the digital. How do you ensure that you bring in the consistency and efficiency of bots while you give a clear focus on empathy and the human touch? So I think that's how the customer journey is changing. So how do you bring in the best of man and machine? So that's clearly one angle. I think the second point you asked about was in terms of being agile enough to optimize and differentiate. I think what the pandemic did was, even nobody was prepared for it, right? There were no PCB plans for it, but I think it overnight forced everyone to come up with responses. And I think now what's important, and I think what people have realized is COVID-19 is not the last black swan event that we have seen. The world is likely to witness many more. So we need to be prepared with responses for questions which are not yet been posed to us. So I think that is a real challenge. But I think COVID-19 has given people that confidence. Thirdly, in terms of being better prepared to give a consistent experience at every touch point, I think today one good thing is the entire footprint is digital. Because virtually all transactions happen digitally, and therefore you have a lot more data and you're able to monitor. And therefore, I think, the customer experience, has gone up significantly. And to the last point, in terms of, navigating, when you're automating, how do you support human interactions? I think what's very important here is to figure out the right balance between man and machine, to the point that I made earlier. And I'll just give you two quick examples. If you look at bots, everybody uses bots. So we didn't want our bots to go and tell our customers, that I can't answer this query. Why don't you, go to a call center, or why don't you go to the website? So what happens is there's a seamless transfer to a human being, who takes it on. And studies show that if you're able to resolve customer queries, in one stroke, the NPS can be very high. Similarly, when we have customers in hospitals for health insurance, we have virtual relationship managers who call up customers and tell them only to focus on wellness, and then they take care of all the processing digitally. And when we got an NPS done on this, we got a score of 90 without a single detractor. So I think that combination of man and machine, is going to be critical as we go forward.
Okay, so Mr. Deepu has been very quick with covering all the 4 points. That was wonderful. And of course, you need to stay back because we are going to open floor and there might be some interaction with all the speakers. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, Mr. Deepu, very quickly. And now I would like to invite Mr. Monish B. Vora. He's the Executive Vice President and Head Customer Services with SBI Card and Payment Services Limited. So, over to you, Mr. Monish, to share your thoughts.
Hi, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. So, an interesting proposition as usual, always. I think the talk of the town right now is things have changed. And, but as all of us keep on saying, change is the only constant. So, I don't really think that there was a change per se. It's just that I think the current environment or the environment that we saw in the last 1.5 years, it just accelerated a lot of changes which were already there in the pipeline. So there was, if you were to ask me, I don't think things have very drastically changed per se for the consumer or for the organization. It's just that we've speeded up a lot of transformation, which typically happens in times of dissonance like this. And all organizations, as all customers and all businesses, have really struggled in the initial period and then come to terms. And now I think they're looking at the way forward. So, and more particularly, I think for the BFSI segment in particular, what is critical is the fact that we are a bit different from the other businesses, largely because of the fact that there is a fiduciary responsibility that we have, and there is a lot of personal data that is involved in the way we operate and the way we transact. This limits a lot of so-called flexibility or innovation that can be brought through that other industries can probably bring in. An e-com, a logistics business can do a lot of stuff that a BFSI cannot do, right? On a digital or a remote channel. Similarly, I think there is a big divide between organizations which are, for want of any other better word, I would say legacy organizations such as us, and what you typically call fintechs today. Those are two, in a sense, extreme poles, because organizations which have invested heavily into legacy, and this was a point that got made earlier as well, when we were speaking about all the platforms that we spoke about. The fact is that when you've invested in legacy platforms, it becomes that much difficult for you to actually maneuver, because these platforms today have their own limitations and their own challenges in terms of being able to maneuver for a faster and more agile delivery of what is required in situations like what we foresaw. At the core of the entire thing, however, is the fact is how do we keep on making sure that we keep on delivering not only what the customer expects from us, but particularly when we talk about customer experience and we talk about digital experience, the customer is today not looking at a experience or an interaction with a BFSI in the same way as he was looking earlier, because the customer is exposed to a lot of other service options, right? So while I may say that I am constrained because I am a BFSI and there is a lot of stuff that I can't do because of restriction, the customer sees me as no different from an e-commerce player or from any other digital player in the market. So for them, it is as easy to operate a mobile app of a e-commerce player as it is for me. That is what they really want to do. They say, if I put in an order right now, if I put in a request right now, it should be fulfilled within 24 hours. So to help with the fact that whether you're able to do it or not, that's your problem. You solve for that problem. So the challenge is that with the greater exposure that the customer has had today to a lot of other digital alternatives, we are now looking at a scenario where the customer is now comparing a bank to a bank. The customer is comparing a bank to an e-commerce as well. So my service offering has to be not at par with my competition as a bank or a credit card issuer. My service offering has to be on par with somebody who is delivering customer experience across any kind of a industry or platform that they have. And that means that I need to bring about that kind of agility given the constraints that I have. And the core of that is, I would say, not really the platform. I think that is the biggest mistake that we end up making. We end up thinking that we are constrained because of the platforms. Yes, we are constrained because of the fact that there are certain limitations that we have in terms of the way our business operates. But more than that, I think it is a matter of mindset. It is a matter of where the way we've actually designed our processes. Digitizing a broken process will not really help. It will still be a broken digital process. You first need to figure out whether the process itself that you have is conducive and giving a good customer experience. Whether the customer effort required in that process is really warranted. Are you really putting in processes in place which are tiring both the customer and your employees? Because processes that tire the customer equally tire your employee as well. If you're putting in a number of checks and balances into a process, those checks and balances are actually not only inconveniencing the customer, but then you're putting in a layer of people in your organization who are also working on those. So I think the greatest learning that we've had during these last 1.5 years is uh, the opportunity for us to reimagine the processes and to take away those processes or those legs of the processes which don't make any sense, neither for the customer nor for the business. And then you break it up to the fact of what out of that is it that you can digitize. Uh, Digital is not a panacea, nor will it ever be. And we discussed that earlier as well. The human touch, the human element will need to be there. If a customer is coming for and we saw it in the example that was shared earlier as well. When the customer wanted to close the card, you don't throw a bot at a customer to close the card. You don't just say, okay, you want to close your card? Thanks, I'll close your card. Pay up this amount, I'll close your account. You don't do that because it's difficult, costly to acquire a customer, and even costlier to lose one. So that is where a machine, you would not really want a machine to take a decision for you. You would go back and you would need a warm body to understand, empathize, and then make sure that you're giving the right solution to the customer. So I think that the two key takeaways that we've seen is fixing your processes and figuring out which processes you actually need to digitize and which processes you need to actually make sure that you empower your warm bodies with information, with technology, and more importantly, with that empathy that they need. So take away the mundane, take away the routine, and get the people to work on those things which are important for people, for your customers, and for your employees.
Mr. Vora, if may I just so interesting to get that insight. Just I have you made one something a very interesting remark of the consumers today. Expect they compare the banks BFSI with the e-commerce, right? And I think that's a quite a powerful statement. So comparing that, just want to understand a little bit. Remove a couple of layers from here and see now the most of the e-commerce they are born in cloud, right? And they are more agile on the technology. From a technology perspective, BFSI is equally receptive to the new technological change, etc. But the advantage that the e-commerce get is the cloud. Most of them are born in cloud. So while versus the BFSI, if you look at, you also mentioned the legacy systems and so on, the security and compliance, other things that BFSI has to look at. So do you think, do you see the BFSI segment embracing the cloud if not public, maybe private, and how does the security play out? Where do you see it is going, and how?
I think a lot of BFSI has already moved to private clouds, even including us.
Yeah.
So a cloud doesn't necessarily have to be a public cloud. Yes, obviously you have advantages you have far more advantages in using a public cloud, but that doesn't mean that you cannot use the core technology. And everybody is using that core technology. It is important for you to use that core technology to be more agile. But like I said, it's not just about when you start comparing. It's not just about technology. I'll take a simple example. Today when you talk about e-commerce, and I typically take that as an example equally because in our businesses and a lot of businesses where there is a loyalty program associated, right? And all credit cards have loyalty programs.
Yeah.
And loyalty programs mean that there is a fulfillment which is required. When I do my fulfillment of my reward points, the customer is directly comparing me to an e-commerce. So I want to redeem X number of reward points for an item. How fast is it that you can deliver it to me? That has nothing to do with the cloud. Ultimately, that has to do with how is it that you've integrated yourself with your partners, and how is it that you made the process seamless. If today you've got analytics, more than enough analytics in e-commerce, where they can figure out whether a customer who's returning an item, what is the level of risk that they're taking on it, whether to give a upfront credit to that customer or wait for the product to come into them. Right? So it's the same here. So I cannot now, if I tell my customer, I'm sorry, okay, I'm sorry, first of all, I did not get you the product on time. I gave you the product was broken. Now for you to replace the product, it's going to take me another 10 days. The customer is going to shoo me away, right? He's saying, this is not really what I expected. So I have to come on par with that, because his expectation today is, if I go on an e-commerce website, I took in a product today, I get it within 24 hours. And he is now comparing me to that. So I am in a very different space altogether. And unless I compete in that space, the customer will not leave me.
Sure. So it's not just the technology, but more to do with the processes as well.
Absolutely.
Right.
I would say technology is going to enable ultimately, yes, technology is going to enable the processes. But first of all, you need to figure out whether your process is right in itself, whether the process that you put in, whether the policy that you put in is right, and then you use technology to bring it back. That can you make it faster? Can you make it more error-free?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. I think that sums up pretty well.
Thank you, Mr. Monish. Thank you, Mr. Monish, for sharing your insights. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Vaibhav Joshi, Chief Digital Officer with Equitas Small Finance Bank, to share his thoughts. Over to you, Mr. Vaibhav. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Ekta. So I'll take your first point first, which is tracking the changing customer journey. Now, see, today the customer journey has become extremely important, and especially in the banking space, because the advent of fintechs and neobanks have brought in the simpler customer journey into limelight, and thereby the banks have been necessitated to change their customer journey. So they say that simplicity is the key, and the customer journey in today's fintech and neo-banking space is the correct corollary to that. So, but to understand that, I urge that let's look at the older days when the customer used to go to the brick and mortar setup. So when a customer used to go to the branches, what used to happen is he would stand in a queue, he would fill a form, he would spend a couple of hours doing banking, and then came the era of ATMs, and then those couple of hours came down to a few minutes. So he would go to an ATM, he would stand in a queue, he would do the banking, and then earlier he used to just do the withdrawal, and then he started depositing cash as well. Then he started depositing checks, and later on was the advent of internet banking. Later on was the advent of mobile banking, and then it is the bank in a palm or bank in a mobile. And today we have PSP apps like Google Pay, Phone Pay. We have social media banking. We have bot banking. We have voice-based banking. We have assisted services-based banking, where even in rural Bharat, people can just walk into a BC agent and avail banking, and the entire customer journey across all these channels have been automated, and automated, keeping simplicity, as the crux. the customer too has the customer too has graduated, and the customer now wants everything within seconds. The customer earlier actually was used to doing banking in a couple of hours, because when he went to a bank, he knew that today half a day is spent for banking, or today my couple of hours are spent for banking. And I actually see this whenever I go to my hometown, and I see my father. He would say that, hey, tomorrow I have to go to the bank, so tomorrow I'm going to get up early, get ready, and then I'm going to the branch and do my banking. And I'm like, hey, why do you want to do that? Just give me your phone and I'll do it. And he's like, he's a retired banker, by the way, and he's like, I use all those things, but I don't get the feeling of doing banking with all these things. Sure, he makes a payment on an e-commerce site, using his mobile apps and stuff, but he's still used to that particular experience. Having said that, the customer today, which can be a millennial, a white collar, a blue collar, or that kind of customer, that customer who is more mobile savvy, he is very much used to doing banking in seconds. And for that simplest of the journey, Ekta, the journey that we are talking about, which is just one click and the transaction is done, or one click and that particular activity gets created, a lot goes in the backend. There are multiple systems that talk in the backend. There are multiple integration points that are there, and wherever there are multiple integration points, those are also multiple failure points. And that is the reason it is extremely important that whenever we are talking about seamless journey, we bring agile led innovations into it. That brings me to your second point that I was going to talk about, agility driven innovation. See, couple of speakers before me have spoken about legacy systems, and why it is not conducive to have these legacy systems, innovations built on these legacy systems. See, ultimately what happens is these legacy systems were designed in a different era, and they were designed keeping certain objectives in mind. Today's objective has changed. Now, when the goalpost has changed, at that point of time, you cannot design a system, you cannot design processes, you cannot design customer experience on a different, a system altogether. For example, if you are playing cricket, and you want to hit the ball, and you want to hit a boundary, then you will have to hit the boundary with a certain speed. You will have to have the ball coming at a certain pace. You will have to time it correctly. Okay, you cannot just touch the ball and say, hey, this ball should go for a boundary. And that is what probably a legacy system is today. If I have to give an example, what agility or agile systems bring is completely different experience altogether. Today what happens is, customer convenience through the simpler process. If you want to achieve it, then majority of the systems have to be developed on agile methodologies. What does agile methodologies bring in? Let me talk about that. So one is increased flexibility with a fast failure mindset. What it means is it is easier to change your design or implementation strategy midway, before the project is fully implemented. Earlier it was not possible. Help improve your team collaboration. There are open lines of communication internally. There are tighter collaboration and consistent communication, which helps team collaboration. Quicker and more efficient releases, ability to release quicker. More often, you can have a fixed or a, ad hoc kind of a release schedule. Greater knowledge building, so all project contributors get exposed to the various aspects of the project. And it is extremely important, Ekta, because at the end of the day, when we are talking about a complex system like a banking or a NBFC, there are multiple facets or multiple aspects. And when we are developing a system, all the contributors need to be aware of the dependencies and the outcome that is expected of all these facets. And that is why finally more transparency is needed, and that is what agile system brings in. Now, having said that, let me also talk about a couple of journeys, and these are real-time journeys, that we experience in our day-to-day life. And initially when Saurabh was talking about the solution that Avaya has developed, so I will talk on one of the processes over there, the video KYC journey. And RBI has recently allowed the video KYC journey to be now also be a broken journey. Earlier it was supposed to be a straight to journey, and majority of the banks have gone ahead on private clouds, and they are now implementing this video KYC. But imagine, earlier a customer had to walk into a branch, he had to fill a form, the customer relationship manager had to meet the customer, he had to see the photocopy and the original document, he had to sign it, and that was a very long process. Subsequently it was minimized by eKYC, wherein your Aadhaar number was captured, wherein your biometric was captured, and it was a simpler process. Look at the customer experience over there. Customer can just provide his Aadhaar number, get an OTP, and do a KYC, which was used to known as semi KYC, or a customer would get his biometric along with your Aadhaar number. It was a full KYC. Look at today's process, the video KYC process. Here, what we are talking about is, a customer who is probably a millennial, he just downloads a neo banking app, he just registers himself, provides his email ID, mobile number, authentication done, and then he straight away connects to a video banking operator. The video banking operator then, does his verification, and within 10 minutes, the bank account is open. Okay, so it's the simplest of the rendition, but at the back end, what complications happen? Okay, now servicing that same customer when it comes to this banking, because he is used to a neo bank, and what he's going to do is he's going to be wanting to book a fixed deposit through the click of a button. He's wanting to split his expenses to the click of a button. He's wanting to make his bill payments to the click of a button. So servicing this customer will also be a bot-based servicing. Now, there also a lot of systems would go at the back end. Okay, so he's again used to, like my good friend from SBI Payments was saying, he's also used to now comparing banking to e-commerce, because he would expect his servicing to be done in the same manner as Zomato, Swiggy, or Amazon servicing is done. So he has a query, he will just type tuck, 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 message sent, and then within that same app, he would expect a response within 30 seconds. Let me tell you that. Okay, so that is where bot banking comes in. That is where social media banking comes in, so on and so forth. So today, yes, Ekta, I kind of agree that agility-driven innovations is the need of the hour, and these were my 2 cents on that.
Thank you, Mr. Weber, for sharing your insights with us on this. So now I would like to invite Darshana Shaha, Executive Vice President, Marketing, Customer Experience, and Digital Business Innovation with Aditya Birla Health Insurance Company Limited. Thank you for being here with us, Darshana, today, and please share your thoughts.
Thanks, Ekta. And I just was Nilesh, what you started by saying that somebody said that BFSI was completely ready and ready for the pandemic, and sort of waiting. It has to be a consultant, because I don't think anybody was ready. Everybody who I mean, most of the guys from big banks are all here, and there has been a lot of changes, a lot of hard work, and a lot of decisions on the
Less impacted was the word, but anyway, yeah.
I don't think even BFSI was ready. And having said that, coming to insurance and your a couple of questions, and not in any particular order. So for us, there were four stakeholders, and entire customer journey has been changing across. Whether it is a distribution at one end, because we sell a lot of things to distributor, whether it is customer on the other end, servicing on one side, and we also have to acknowledge one big important factor in insurance, which is IRDA. A regulator by itself was also very active. I remember launching 14 products last year. Every 1 month we were launching, because we were real time hit with the customer. I mean, we didn't know how to handle this entire COVID, and COVID claims were hitting the roof. So, as health insurance, where people are in the hospital, claims coming in, the entire claims process had to change, because the earlier process was that physical documents had to come and then the processing starts. Couriers were shut. So, imagine different parts of India. So, everything had to be digitized. Whilst we had certain journey, but we had to bring in the WhatsApp based claims coming in through our contact center, through email, scanning in the branch. The branches were closed, so scanning through our app. So a lot of those differentiated journeys to and we couldn't stop our claims, because this is what our health insurance was going through. So that's one entire change in the way it was behaving. And on the top of that, IRDA bought in Corona Kavach as a product. First time in the history, we have insurances which are 3 3 months product, 3 3 months renewal, 3 months, 6 months, which was never there before. So we had to launch product at a go in a month time, and having our systems ready, backing up there. When it comes to distribution, because distribution is where now they are not used to selling. They're all used to selling face to face. So the entire journey change at the distributor end, whether bringing in co-browsing, getting the adoption of their distributor mobile application, the entire product pitches digitized, and they can share it through email and WhatsApp in different languages, because otherwise it is, so the printing has stopped. Which is good news for us, because we're saving a lot of money on the printing side. We've got them adopted to co-browsing and selling like that. In our case, in health insurance, customer, the medical tests are very important. The diagnostic center, even in wave two for that matter, diagnostic centers have been closed. So getting all of that through video, through tele, MER, video MER. So a lot of these journeys. So on, like I can tell you, on the go we are changing. On the go we are, digitizing our end to end. like relooking at entire journeys and digitizing, and that's what has helped us grow. And we've been growing 50% and above year on year. So, but this is the kind of, and somebody spoke about agility well, and that's a reality today, to adopt agile methodology to, and at the same time, today we are struggling with getting good tech people. The tech people are constantly attriting, and that's been a huge problem. So you're constantly coming up with some new challenges and trying to work around with that. But to me, the world is continuing like this. Hybrid model is here to stay. Digital is here to stay, and that's what we are getting. The changing trends and what we are gearing more and more now today is looking at those kind of trends. And now, pre-imagining the journey and before we get hit again. That's the world we are living in today. In our case, we focus a lot on health. So everything that the customer had to do about their health, which was physical, had become virtual. So virtual sessions with influencers, virtual fitness sessions, booking your sessions on your app. So a lot of these things had to be reimagined and completely do it on the go. So that's for me. And if you ask me as a marketer, I think it's a great time to be in health insurance, because I used to always say this category is a push category. But today people are waking up and saying, oh, do I have enough health insurance? Do I have enough cover? Is my family covered? Because people are losing jobs, they're losing their group insurances. So this has actually become a pull category, a big conversation, a big chatter. So, and yeah, we are omni channel now. We are behaving like somebody mentioned e-commerce. Yes, today insurance is sold like e-commerce. It is one more product in your basket. We look at it as an omni channel from your web or your app or your WhatsApp, lots of AI backed bots. So all of this thing has overnight happened in the last 18 months in our lives, and it's here to stay. So I think that's more from me, but not in a particular order to your questions. So thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Darshana, for sharing your insights on the subject. So now I would like to invite Mr. Hari Shankar, Senior Vice President, Customer Experience with Future Generali India Insurance Company Limited, to share his thoughts. And thank you for being with us today. Over to you, Mr. Hari Shankar.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Hope I'm audible enough, Ekta.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
So thank you to the hosts and the fellow panelists, and we have people from insurance also and banking. So some of the panelists may have stolen my thunder. Let me see what unique things I can offer after the vast spread that they have put in front of us already. I'd say about the changing journey and agility in innovation and optimizing and differentiating while things are like very changing and sometimes beyond control. Actually, this 18 months or more have made all industries, not only BFSI, to move towards a desirable state, something that all the technology leaders, something that all the customer experience leaders would have wanted at the core of the hearts. But this provided the impetus, or this provided the support uh, unwittingly, and this brought it to the forefront of the agenda, because that is how only business could be done, or for that matter, that is how only customer could be served. Like when Darshana talked about the necessity, you cannot keep the claims on hold, or you cannot keep the service requests on hold. At Future Generali, what aided us is the long-term programs that we have in place and the pillars that we have designed across building our strength in customer experience. So, like Generali being a 190 old organization, like we are on a spread called Generali 190, where we are looking at the years ahead. I mean, so futuristically, because of the past that we have for so many years. And we have adopted something known as hallmarks of excellence in customer experience and distributor experience. And the KPIs and the projects around those are what are impacting our evolution to be closer to the customer. So everyone talked about the way the business was sourced. So our business also became more paperless. So we had the agent application or the agent portal for inwarding of policies, for servicing of policy. Only thing was agents would prefer that face-to-face logging of the policy, that coming to the branch. With this COVID times, that adoption really increased. And in fact, that is when the system was able to come fully to load, and we were able to also understand some of the gaps with the system. So apart from that, the insurance apps also were picked up really by both the agents and the customers for doing the business. And that was our hallmark of offering a seamless omni-channel experience. Uh, while we talk about like maybe digitization, and other panelists also touched about it, it cannot be like just a ad hoc or a ad hoc digital, or it cannot be just like a physical, another word that we use it, but we have to understand that all these are tools just to serve another human being. So whether we do it through a tool, or whether we do it through a human being, the one thing we cannot forego is the caring experience and the human touch over there. So even if it's an algorithm or a bot that is serving the customer, it has to show the same care, and the customer would not bother if things go wrong. He would not bother that, oh, there was a bot, so it could have done a mistake. So it has to be, in fact, even more robust, and the transition to a human being at the appropriate place should be there. So on the one side, to build to scale the routine, mundane transactions getting automated, the human beings which would be there, they need to build up their skills much more, and they need to be really the knowledge workers that are able to give the first time experience right. And that's what we have been focusing on with our customer experience or customer service employees. Specifically in insurance, another thing that we have been focusing on is simplification, because like some of my previous panelists talked about, like companies benchmarking us, people benchmarking us with the e-commerce players or with the Amazons, and with the other such big brands, and they don't give a damn if it's an insurance company and because you have a legacy. So here, what is important is that though we may have our terms and conditions, and like what another panelist said, that one big player is the regulator, the IRDA. But how do we package the key points to communicate effectively to the customer that this is the main things that you would get, and this is what you are coming to us for, and this is what you can bank upon the policy for, especially with regard to health insurance, motor insurance. It becomes very important. Otherwise, it's a mage. The amount of coverages that you get, the amount of exclusions that there are, and the defining clauses that could be there. So this remote working has also taught us to focus on the employees, to make them remote learners, because you cannot no longer operate in the mode of uh, rank and file and controlling and through the physical presence, like motivating the people over there. So you have to find new ways of training, coaching people, and also ensuring self-learning. So one important role of digital has to be to use that, where the knowledge is available easily to the person who is serving the customer, and also he has a way to keep evaluating and upgrading himself to the needs that make him fit and agile enough to serve the customer. Digital just need not be that from the human we have transferred to digital, but how we are leveraging the digital resources to strengthen the human being who is serving the customer. So those are some of the things we have been trying to do passionately at Future Generali, and the journey ahead is again long. I felt happy to listen to such a wide, diverse speakers, and who have really been doing similarly and to great extent great transformations in the organizations. Yeah, over to you, Ekta. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harishankar, for sharing your thoughts on the subject. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Nitin Talwar, Head B2C and Digital Applications, Aviva India, to share his thoughts on the subject. Over to you, Mr. Nitin, and thank you for being with us today.
Hi, thanks Ekta, and thanks to the fellow panelists.
I think, yeah, a lot of things have already been covered. And when we were talking about financial services, financial sector, insurance was kind of off late. When we talk about the epidemic coming our way and things getting stuck. So it was like 1.5 years back when we were in March 2020 and we got to know about the lockdowns and all. We were not prepared. So maybe financial sector, other things were prepared, but definitely we were not prepared for a work from home kind of a full-time work from home kind of a strategy. So when you talk about the overall customer journey, I think the customer journey for us was more starting from the in-house customers or the in-house people, our own employees, and it was then ranging towards the other set of people. And for us, and specifically for me, it was very difficult to keep on uh, creating a platform for them. So to give them a platform where they can actually effectively be productive and utilize, that was the first thing, my own employees. And then from there, to transition into a customer experience was also important, because it was all matter of a distress and people were so not into a good state of mind. It was very important for us to keep our internal employees healthy, in a good state of mind, and then so that we can have a good customer journey or a good customer experience transformed. Yes, all the services were exposed over the internet, so the cybersecurity became one of our more prominent focus area, and to enable our internal employees to how to be more stringent, how to be more diligent in using the data. When everything moved on to the laptop, some of them were shared because we were not getting all the laptops from the outside vendors and everything on roll. So yes, multiple things did come up. I mean, when I talk, it's completely about the financial services sector, that the focus area actually shifted to a lot of cybersecurity related stuff as well. Then to capture the customer journey, we had to form a strategy where all the customer pieces, the customer information, the customer behavior, customer personalization was to be chained together into a good piece of flow. And for that, what we were focusing on is not just the funnel. So the funnel actually, the sales funnel actually comes down when the person gets converted, but the insurance being one sector which was increasing its portfolio by and large, a lot of things. The people who were having health insurance were now focused more to get life insurance or a term plan also covered. The people with term plan was also planning to get health plans. Insurance was looked way beyond just an investment option to a actually more secured portfolio to be created for all of the people. So on those lines, people actually were buying multiple insurance. So the journey, the customer journey actually bubbled up after they were sourced already with a policy, and then a cross sell upsell opportunity was to be tracked. And for that, capturing all the information was very important. Yes, digital tools, digital technologies did come to all our respite. We were able to source it on all our digital mediums, all our digital channels actually spiked a lot in the adoption rate. Agility, yes, that was a must key factor that was needed, because we had to kind of deal with very changing environment, and agile being a mindset uh, was to be adopted. So agility from adoption to a transformation to an innovation, I think that was a journey that we all had to actually envisage in our minds as leaders, uh, with our complete audience of the organization. It was the complete set of the organization, because you can have an adoption in one set of area, but when you are moving to a innovative culture of agility, you have to transform it. Use They can give you a framework, you have to actually use it in accordance to how your organization would be able to adopt it, how best it would be suited into your organization, because there is no step written step or a template given to all of us to be accommodative in our business fundamentals. So yes, it was a journey that we had to go through, and agile
frameworks, the leadership approach, where you don't need to get into while into a cross-functional team, while into a agile uh, system. You don't need to get into a very micromanagement piece of work, a dashboard written approach, a quick cheap testing scenario. All the DevOps and all those things did come into play for respite, and all the digital things did help us achieve what we are. And I think I would definitely agree with Mr. Deepu as well. This is something which is not going to end here. It is definitely more and more to come. So we all have to be prepared for it, geared for it, and we will all have to actually think out of the box, continue the transformation journey, continue with what we have in hand, and research what is going to come next. So any of the, I mean, I know in this scenarios, the plan of plans, the BCP plans also doesn't work out. So we have to think through, and we have to be very, very diligent, keeping in mind what technologies we have, how we can use them to the best of the experiences, not only just for our external end customers, but also the in-house people who are also our customers. And with them, actually, we will be able to cater to the a good customer experience, which is outside the end users. So, yep, that's all. I would want to rest and keep it open for others also to contribute. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nitin, for sharing your thoughts. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Vaibhav Ambradkar. He's the lead customer experience with IDFC First Bank. So, Mr. Vaibhav, over to you to share your thoughts.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Ekta. And great, glad to see so many people on the same front. So I think we have less time. A couple of thoughts. For me, or rather for us, this has been a black swan event. I think for the entire category. And a black swan event, what happens in the black swan event is the 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 basis by which someone measures the category or your brand goes for a toss, right? The evaluating parameters, the parameters basis which you have built your brand, basis which you have built your bank, right? These are not being compared now. You're compared basis something really different. I'm not from a banking industry. I joined from and thanks for fellow colleagues who said CX is industry agnostic. I joined 18 months back and I saw banking as a completely commodity business. And our business firmly believes that we have to learn from the Swiggy, Zomato, and all the automotives and all the other retail brands. Converting a commodity brand or converting a commodity sector, you would need to create new variables basis which the customer will start evaluating it. And during these scenarios, these new variables start. So now typically a customer would have been evaluating a bank basis which, what are the interest rate or what is the timely surveys or TAT. Now during this scenario, the variables are completely different. Now when the variables change, the customer journey changes. Now that's why it's very imperative for each and everyone to have a very kind of a very solid listening and observing mechanism. Now this listening and observing mechanism really helped us to understand, while at the one end you had 25% of the entire India population losing their job, you had 45% of the people losing their incomes. During these scenarios, what are the parameters basis which people are actually evaluating the brand? What are the parameters basis which people are important for them? What are the key drivers, needs, and expectations? We started and we underrated a lot of our tools which we already had, something like a queue management system which is there in most of our branches and loan center. We started observing them very keenly. When we observed them, we thought a lot of customers were still walking in during the pandemic was because they want to foreclose their loan, they want to do the moratorium for their extended loan period, and they were very, they needed that trust factor because they're working on the money which is little left on them, the debt which is with them. We took learnings from them. We have an app. We built a very more completely agile and very solid way of foreclosing your loans online. The entire app started to becoming not only a loan center but a branch but a retail bank. Now the entire app started to become something which is no one need to step out. This innovation or this thrust on the app building wouldn't have happened if this scenario wouldn't have come, where we didn't wanted a customer to come to our branches and loan centers and take an effort. The entire customer choreography within the branches had to change. The entire customer choreography at the loan center had to be changed, from person who's using the COVID norms to using the person to actually change what is had to be changed. The next part, which I was, I was listening the fellow members. One of the things which we did was launching new products, and this actually helps you to check what have you built over the period. So you have understood different touch points. This is a time to actually check what how your straight through processes are, how robust systems are. We launched credit card in a very crowded market to our existing customers, and the credit card and this is the learning on the COVID has like you can create your own credit card. You can have it pre-activated. You do not need to go to a ATM to do a first swipe and then start using the credit card. It is pre-activated credit card. You have a digital statement wherein you can see how much expense because you have a short-term cash. Now, in fact, in a way, the entire business as a banking sector, at least for us, we are very we were actually fortunate because of this incidents. We could think all these scenarios where we wanted to give more of a solution in the hand, while at the same time the technology was pushed. It was also important for listening and observing customer at the same time to understand why are they actually contacting us. While the entire industry was working at 20-30% of customer service operation, we were the only person in the banking industry who were operating at 70 to 90% of calls in the channels were active. Now this actually helped us two ways, right? While the video KYC, we had a complete set of people who were actually enacting on the video KYC. We could also test same time what are the new queries. Now these were the parameters. Now tomorrow customer is thinking there was no bank who was listening to me. Why this is the bank where are still risking their life and they are at home and they are measuring me and they are actually listening to me. Now these are the scenarios which helped us to craft new variables and parameters. One more thing which I just because of the paucity of time, we miss out in this entire process of looking inside. The entire CX journey cannot be done by a particular function. CX is an entire everyone's job, each and every function's job, each and every employee's job. One thing which we as a business took was ensuring and enabling and strengthening each and every employee, uh, giving that empowerment, making them creating and fostering that culture of CX, which is more important sometimes, to make them feel and empathize with the customer to deliver what we are promising. So yeah, and understanding, the more people would understand these touch points, the more the employees would able to impact the customer at this crucial point. So I think those are my 2 cents. I think we are shortage of time, Ekta. So yeah, thanks.
So Vaibhav, sorry, you mentioned interesting point here that the CX is not just the front office's job, right? It's
Yeah.
the entire office's, entire enterprise's responsibility, and that includes the
Yeah.
back. So do you want to call out anything specific that you did to facilitate that within your organization?
Yeah, a lot. We actually have a structured program. While we as a bank have a always use for as a brand promise for the customers, how to make that happen? What is the method to madness? While everyone knows customer is first, but then how to make it happen? Be it the CX, and we, in fact, the interesting part we have done, we have categorized employees from the perspective of customer. There's a so I would be called as a CX delivery staff, CX management staff, CX creative staff, CX support, CX leadership. Each and every employee has a net promoter score as a KRA in their system. So, and this I'm calling about 27,000 people from 15% to 30%. That's how much psych we are. So that brings responsibility. So be it HR has to hire people who are more customer centric. Be it technology has to enable to get such technology which will help frontline employees to solve technological problems for the customer at the branch level. So these are the things which we did. While there's a CX constitution and the framework which we have laid upon it, but yeah, there is a bigger motto internally. See, today we are not standing front, 1% not standing in front of the customer. We are standing in a horizontal line, while earlier it was a vertical line, right? And it will be foolish to actually think that CX function will only drive the entire agenda. So we are quite aware of that, and I think more and more banks are now getting into the CX transformation role. However, we have built us into the DNA of building the bank because we are a fresh bank as such. Yeah.
Great, thank you, Vaibhav.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Weber, for sharing your insights. So,
Thanks.
Mr. Nilesh, over to you to share your thoughts, or do we have any other thought leaders who would like to add something before we go for the wrap up?
Okay, if there is no one else, just interesting discussion, various viewpoints, a lot of emphasis on the digital front, etc. But I just want to, leave one thought here is, everyone spoke about the different channels, right? There are multiple channels. There's a lot of emphasis on the app, digital touch points for the customers, etc. Maybe I wanted to have the a little bit more discussion on this front, but for the paucity of time, we'll have it some other day. But just a thought that I want to, parting thought maybe, there are a lot of insurance representatives here from insurance companies. Even in the banking, there are so many products and so on. And we are talking about so many customer touch points and channels. And there are bots. There is a voice bot. There is a chat bot. There is the social touch points. There is a website. There is a mobile app, and so many other things, right, from a customer touch points. And probably most of the organizations end up having different applications for that. So but what about the coordination across these channels, right? How do you share the knowledge? Maybe that's a topic, a detailed topic for another conversations we may like to have. How do you manage the knowledge across this multiple customer touch points, right? There has to be a single source of truth within the organization for employees, for customers across multiple touch points and so on. So maybe I'll leave that as a thought. But great discussion, and a lot of I learned few things myself, and I hope other participants also picked up one other's brain and few ideas to take home from here on. Thank you everyone, and thank you, Ekta.
Thank you so much. So, on this closing note, I would like to thank our partner Avaya India and all the thought leaders for taking out your precious time and being here on the round table and sharing interesting insights. You being from somebody from being insurance, from the banking, and we had lovely insights. And thank you for the audience who have joined us today and heard some great insights from our leaders. I have also shared a feedback form with you, which is mentioned on the chat box, requesting you to please share your feedback with us, which also mentions about your interest with Avaya. In case you would like to know more solutions on Avaya, I would be happy to connect you with the Avaya team. And please follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and various social media for various updates. And that's all. Have a great evening and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining in.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.